Introduction. My name is Tina. I am 60 years old. A few months ago, my husband passed away. Life changed very much for me then. Now I live alone in our big house. It feels very empty and very quiet. Sometimes the quiet makes me sad. I try to keep busy. I read books and I sit in the garden. My husband loved this garden. He spent many happy hours there. I sit there hoping to feel him near, but the loneliness stays. It is a heavy feeling that I carry every day. My son, Jim, lives in another town. He is a good son. He calls me often and he visits me every week. He always asks how I am. I know he worries about me because I am sad and alone. One afternoon, Jim came to my house. We sat down, and he looked at me kindly. He said, "Mom, this house is too big for you. You are alone too much. Please come and live with me and Candy." Candy is Jim's wife. I thought about his words for a while. Living with them would be a big change. I have lived in my own house for many, many years. This house holds many memories, but the idea of being with family again felt strong. I wanted to feel warm. I wanted to feel love. I missed having people around me. My heart felt a little lighter when I thought about it. I looked at Jim and smiled. "Yes," I said. "Yes, I will come." Jim was very happy. He hugged me tightly. He said it was a good idea. He said I would not be lonely anymore. I hoped he was right. I wanted to feel connected to family again. I wanted to be part of a home, not just a quiet, empty house. I knew life would be different, but I was ready to try. I started to think about packing my things. This felt like a new chapter. I hoped to find peace and happiness there. I hoped to feel like myself again, close to my son and his wife. This decision was a step away from the sadness. I wanted to share meals and stories with family every day. I wanted the comfort of loved ones close to me. 2. Moving in. The moving day arrived. A big van carried my things to Jim and Candy's house. Their home was very modern and clean. It had straight lines and bright, white walls. It was very different from my old house, which had many warm colors and old, comfortable furniture. My old house felt like a soft blanket. Their house felt like a new, crisp sheet. Jim was there to help. He opened the door of the van. We started to take out my boxes, one by one. There were many boxes. They held my books, my old photo albums, and some special small things that belonged to my late husband. Each box held a piece of my past life. Candy met us at the door. She gave me a smile. It was a polite smile, but it did not feel truly warm. Her eyes moved from my face to the boxes that filled the driveway. She looked at the old wooden chest that Jim and I carried with effort. She looked at the big, soft armchair that was my favorite place to read. I could feel her looking, weighing each item. Inside, her house was perfect. The floors shone brightly. The furniture was new, simple, and very modern. My old things looked out of place in this new, bright setting. My dark wooden table looked heavy next to her light glass one. My flowered curtains looked old next to her plain, modern blinds. Even my small, colorful rugs seemed wrong on her polished floors. I could see the difference clearly, and it made me feel uneasy. Candy showed me to my room. It was a small room, but it had a bed and a closet. I started to unpack a few things to make it feel more like my own. I put a small picture of my husband on the bedside table. I placed a few favorite books on a small shelf. Candy stood in the doorway for a moment. Her eyes watched me as I moved. She did not say much, but I felt her looking at every item I touched, every movement I made. It was a quiet watching, but it made me feel like I was being judged. I wanted to feel like I was home. I wanted to feel like a mother living with her son, a part of their family. But in that moment, I felt like a guest. I felt like a visitor who had brought too many old things into a new, clean space. It was not the warm welcome I hoped for. I felt a little sad, but I tried to be positive. I knew I needed to try hard to make this new life work. I hoped things would get better. But my first feeling was that I was not truly a part of this home. I was just moving in, but I already felt like I was moving into a different world, a world where I might not belong. 3 different ways. My days were often slow. I liked to wake up early, but I moved without rush. I would make myself a cup of warm tea. Sometimes I would listen to soft music. It was a peaceful start to my day. But Candy's mornings were very different. She moved fast. Her steps were quick on the floor. Her voice was often loud, especially when she talked on the phone. She drank strong coffee and seemed to be always in a hurry. Our rhythms did not match. I wanted to help around the house. I believed it was my home now, too. One evening, I decided to cook dinner. I chose a simple recipe, something I had cooked many times before. The kitchen felt warm with the smell of my food. When Candy came home, she walked into the kitchen. She looked at the pots on the stove. Then she said the smell was too heavy. I did not understand. It was just food. Her words made me feel a little confused and sad. I put the food on the table, but I felt less happy about it. Another day, I saw some dust on the living room table. It was a beautiful table made of glass. I took a soft cloth to clean it. I wanted to help keep the house nice. As I started to wipe the table, Candy walked into the room. She saw me. Her eyes went to my hands. Without a word, she quickly took the cloth from me. Then she wiped the table again herself, very carefully. Her actions told me I was not doing it right. I felt like a child who had touched something wrong. I also tried to tidy the living room. I moved some magazines into a neat pile. I straightened a picture frame on the wall. I thought I was making the room look good. When Candy came back, she looked around. She picked up the magazines. She put them in a different place. She moved the picture frame a little. She told me my way of tidying was old. She said her way was better for the house. It felt like she was saying my ideas were not good enough. Every day, I felt like I was doing something wrong. My attempts to help were always met with her corrections. She did not shout, but her words and actions were sharp. She would tell me how to close a door, how to wash a dish, even how to sit on the sofa. It made me feel small. I felt like I did not belong. My quiet ways, my slow movements, my old habits, they did not fit in her fast, modern world. I was an old piece in a new, shiny puzzle. I tried to be quiet. I tried to stay out of her way. But still, I felt her eyes watching. I felt like a stranger in my son's home. This was not the family life I had hoped for. The garden. I spent many days in the house, feeling a deep quiet. I missed my late husband very much. I often thought about his favorite flowers and the beautiful, quiet garden we had at our old home. I wished to create a small place here, in Jim and Candy's backyard, to remember him. It would not be a large garden, just a small corner with a few simple plants. This idea brought me a little peace. It felt like a quiet way to keep a piece of him close to me, a small comfort in my new life. One afternoon, I saw Candy in the kitchen. She was cleaning the counters with great care. I felt brave and decided to talk to her about my wish. "Candy," I began softly, "I have an idea. I would like to plant a small garden in the backyard, just a little one with some flowers to remember my husband." Candy stopped cleaning. Her face changed quickly. It became hard and cold, losing its earlier calm look. She looked at me for a moment. "A garden?" she asked, her voice sharp and clear. "No, Tina, that is not possible at all. My lawn has a very specific style. I work very hard to keep it perfect and neat. A garden would break that style completely. It would ruin the look of everything I have created here." Her words hit me hard, like a cold wave. I felt a sudden, sharp pain in my chest. I only wanted a small space, a quiet spot to think of the man I loved. It was not about style for me, it was deeply about memory and comfort. I tried to explain again, but it would be very small, just a few simple flowers. "It means a great deal to me, Candy." Candy shook her head firmly. "No," she said again, her voice even stronger this time. "The answer is no. This is my home, and I want it to stay exactly as it is now. There will be no garden." Jim came into the kitchen just then. He must have heard our raised voices. He saw the clear anger on Candy's face and the deep sadness on mine. "What's wrong, everyone?" he asked, looking worriedly between us. I tried to speak, but Candy spoke first and fast. "Your mother wants to dig up my perfect lawn for a garden, Jim. I told her no. It will ruin everything I have worked for." Jim looked at me, his expression understanding. He knew how much my husband meant to me. He tried to speak calmly and find a solution. "Maybe we can find a small pot, Mom, or a small corner that won't change the main lawn too much." Candy did not listen to his words. She was already very angry. She turned quickly and walked out of the kitchen. Her steps were loud and fast as she went to the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Jim sighed heavily and looked at me, his eyes now full of worry and frustration. Later that night, the house was quiet for a while. Then, I heard voices from Jim and Candy's bedroom. The door was closed, but I could clearly hear them. Their voices were not soft at all. They were loud and very angry. I knew they were fighting because of me, because of my simple garden idea. The sound made my heart feel very heavy and sad. I lay in my bed, listening to their argument, feeling completely like a problem in their home. 5. A cold house. The days grew colder between us. The house, which I hoped would be a warm family home, now felt like a place of ice. The quiet was no longer peaceful. It was a heavy quiet, full of things left unsaid. I felt the tension in every room. I tried to help Candy, but my efforts always went wrong. One morning, I saw her cooking in the kitchen. I offered a small piece of advice, a way my late husband liked his eggs. Candy's face became stiff. She told me she knew how to cook. She did not like my ideas. My words often seemed to make things worse. Later, Candy looked at my old, comfortable armchair in the living room. It was a chair I brought from my own house, a piece of my past. "That chair is too big," she said. "It makes the room look small. It ruins the space." Her words made my heart feel very heavy. I felt like I was a problem in their house. Every day, I felt more like a burden, a heavy weight on their lives. I tried to walk quietly. I tried to stay out of the way. I spent more time in my room, but still, I felt unwanted, like a guest who had stayed too long. Jim saw what was happening. He often came to my room. He hugged me tightly. "Mom, please stay strong," he said, but his eyes looked very tired. There were new lines on his face, signs of worry. He was caught between his wife and his mother. It was a very hard place for him to be. I saw his pain, and it made my own pain worse. I did not want to cause trouble for my son. Candy spoke to Jim more and more. I could hear their voices from my room. They were low and serious. She wanted her house to be perfect again. She wanted her old life back, without my things or my presence. She often looked at me with cold eyes across the dinner table. I felt like a shadow in her home, a shadow she wanted to make disappear. She pushed Jim every day. Her words were clear. She wanted me to leave their house. The air in the house grew colder with each passing day. The tension between us was very strong. It made the whole house feel like a cold place without any warmth. I knew something big was going to happen soon. The peace of our family was broken. 6. A hard choice. One evening, Candy came home with papers. She walked to Jim, her face serious. She showed him information about an elderly living home. Jim looked at the papers, then at Candy. Candy's voice was sharp. She told Jim, "Your mother must move out. If she stays here, I will leave you." Her words were very clear. Jim looked heartbroken. His face turned pale. He loved Candy, his wife. He also loved me, his mother. He did not know what to do. It was a terrible choice for him. He sat at the table and cried. He felt very sad and broken. Later that night, Jim came to my room. He knocked softly. When I opened the door, I saw his red, sad eyes. He looked very tired. He came inside and sat on my bed. He held my hand. Then he slowly told me everything. He explained Candy's ultimatum. He said Candy would leave him if I stayed in their home. My heart felt a sharp pain. It was a very hard moment. I saw my son's deep sadness. I knew he was suffering a lot. He did not want to lose either of us. But I also knew Candy was serious. She would really leave him. I could not let that happen. I did not want to be the reason his marriage ended. I had to make a very difficult decision for his happiness. I looked at Jim. I held his hand tightly. I took a deep breath. Then I spoke softly. I told him, "Jim, I will go. I will leave the house." I saw sadness, but also a little relief in his eyes. It was the only way to save his marriage. It was a hard choice, but I knew it was right for my son. I did not want to destroy the life he had built with Candy. I would begin to pack my belongings soon. 7. Saying goodbye. The next morning, I began to pack my things. My heart felt heavy. I carefully put my clothes into bags. I also packed a few old books and some small photos of my late husband. Each item held a memory. It was hard to leave the things I had brought with me, but I knew I could not take everything. Jim came to my room. He looked very sad. He helped me carry some of the heavier bags. His eyes were red from crying. We did not speak much. The silence in the room was full of unspoken feelings. Candy stood in the kitchen doorway. Her arms were crossed over her chest. She watched us. Her face showed no emotion. She did not come closer. She did not offer to help. Most importantly, she did not say a single word. There was no goodbye from her. Her silence made the moment even colder. I felt a deep sadness, but also a strange sense of finality. This was truly the end of my stay in her house. Soon, all my bags were packed. Jim put them in his car. We walked out of the house. I took one last look at the living room, the kitchen, and the garden I had wanted to plant. Then I got into the car with Jim. The drive to the elderly home was quiet. Jim drove slowly. My hands were shaking a little, but I tried to be strong for him. I looked at Jim and smiled a small, sad smile. "This is not your fault, Jim," I told him softly. "You did your best." He nodded, but tears still rolled down his face. He could not stop them. When we arrived, the building looked peaceful. We went inside. A kind woman met us. Jim stayed with me for a little while. He hugged me tightly. It was a long hug, full of love and sorrow. Saying goodbye to my son was the hardest part. I watched him leave. The doors closed gently behind him. I was alone now. My new room was small. It had a bed, a chair, and a window. It was not like my old big house or Jim and Candy's modern home. But this room was mine. I could make it my own. I felt a mix of feelings. There was grief, a deep sadness for what had happened. But also, there was a small piece of calm. I took a slow, deep breath. I was not in her house anymore. The tension was gone. I could finally breathe freely. This was a new beginning, even if it felt like an ending. 8. A new life. Days passed slowly at first. Then they started to feel faster. I woke up each morning in my small room. It was not a big house, but it was my own. I met other people living here. Some were quiet like me. Some loved to talk and laugh. I began to make new friends. We would sit together in the common room. We talked about our lives and our families. It felt good to share stories again. I also found a special group. It was a gardening group. We had a small area outside with flowers and plants. I loved working with the soil. It reminded me of my late husband. It brought a quiet joy to my heart. The sun felt warm on my face. Life slowly started to feel warm again, too. I was not alone anymore. I had found a new routine and new company. This new place was becoming my home. One afternoon, Jim came to visit me. His face looked tired, but his eyes held something new. He sat down and took my hand. He had important news. He told me that Candy wanted a divorce. My heart felt a little sad for him, but not surprised. Jim said Candy also wanted the house. She believed she should have it all. Jim did not want to lose his home. It was the house where he grew up. He decided to fight for it. He told me he needed my support. I looked at my son. He had been through a lot because of me and Candy. Now, it was my turn to stand by him. I told him I would help in any way I could. I gave him strength just as he had given me strength before. The days that followed were busy for Jim. He talked to lawyers. He went to court. It was a difficult time for him. I waited and hoped. Every time he visited, I asked about the case. Finally, one day, he came with good news. Jim won. He would keep the house. Candy was very angry, Jim said. She left with a lot of bad feelings. But Jim had his home. I felt happy for him. He deserved a good life. For me, this news brought a different kind of peace. I had found my own strength. It was not loud. It was not about fighting. It was about taking a quiet step forward, even after hard times. I looked at my small garden at the elderly home. The flowers were blooming. My story had changed a lot, but I was still here. I was still Tina. I had found a new life, full of peace and quiet happiness. I was strong in my own way.